But these illusions that restore the flesh of youth days past do not erase the scars won across 50 winters thence, nor does it reverse the fate that befell me. Welcome, spirit. Tell me, who is it who comes to receive me at the end of my days? I do not believe it is the old gods who speak to me. Otherwise, I would see battle-clad Valkyries astride winged steeds coming to whisk me away to Valhalla. I suppose our gods lack the subtlety of a disembodied voice. No, you're of a different sort. I have heard of another being. A long time ago, a man told me of a god that goes by many names. Almighty Father, the Creator, the Judge of Deeds. Are you this same King of Kings? You need not respond. These otherworldly dramatics betray your obscure nature. I am told that this Lord God rewards men after death, life everlasting to those that you deem worthy. Have I struck at your purpose? Have you restored my strength so I may tell my tale for judgment?
Show us thy spirit doth
I accept your challenge. And if this is to be my last hour on earth, then it shall be a triumphant one! I have fought countless battles, ventured my life in the pursuit of glory, and shall be found a man worthy of life after death. Oh, hear me, God, Judge. Listen now, and I will tell you the story of Beowulf, King of the Geats. My story begins as no more than a mere thread inextricably woven into the legend of another. Far from my home in the land of the Danes lived a man, a progeny to kings. Each and every one of his forefathers was a hero whose names and deeds would echo through generations, but all of their accomplishments would lose luster when compared to their worthiest son, Hrothgar. To tell my story, I must tell his. Of 4 heirs to the throne, it was Hrothgar fortune favored most. War won him fame, and with it the hearts of men. Friends, kinsmen, warriors flocked to his side, swelling his army to a mass far surpassing his ancestors. Soon, none could challenge him, and the people rejoiced when he was crowned king of the Danes. Hrothgar, a kind man, wished to requite the love of his people. So he gave orders to construct a great hall built from the finest of wood and iron, fitted with gold rivaling only the sun in brightness. He promised that it would be a home to all that was good, and from within he would dispense the comforts and riches of the world with all. The day it was complete, he named it Heorot. And eager to keep his promise, he stuffed those young halls with song and drunken revelry. Through open doors, music drifted into the wilds and invited Danes to partake in the feast. But this music happened upon the ear of a stranger to such sweetness, a creature that lurked in the shadow of man's joy. It was a monster by the name of Grendel. Have you heard it? Christians spit on the name and condemn him as the unholy descendant of a cursed man. What was his name again? Cain. Exiled for the murder of his brother Abel. This is a just punishment for murder. But it's hard for a father, even the Almighty Father, to punish his son with such a sentence. Even still, I am told this Almighty Father exacted a greater price still. A curse was laid upon him that from his loins only goblins, ogres, and all manner of monsters would spring. This world is full of monsters. If Cain is the grandsire of all such dark creatures, then he must have been busy in his banishment. Unfortunate. Unwelcomed by gods or men, Grendel haunted the marshes, far from mankind, misery his only friend. The merry making of the hall distressed him. For days of feasting he endured until one night he crept out to see these happy Danes. And what he found in that unprotected hall was a pile of slumbering men, fat from the feast, numb to pain and sorrow. His envy made him ravenous. There, in the dark, he prepared a feast all his own. He butchered them on the tables where they slept, one by one, 30 Danes in all, staining the bright hall red with blood. And when he was done, he dragged the corpses home to his lair to glut himself on the remains. Dawn's first light revealed the carnage. Hrothgar, his stout heart broken, kneeled amongst the gore and prayed for intervention. Prayers that would only be answered by ceaseless cruelty. For 12 winters, Grendel visited nightly bloodshed upon Heorot. All warriors who tried to stop his bloody rampage met the same fate. And so the Danes were forced to abandon that place. And Grendel reigned, while Hrothgar watched as the greatest house in all the world was made empty. This is the story as it was told to me by a crew of wayfaring sailors 50 years ago on the coast of Geatland. At the first utterance of their tale, I knew exactly what I must do. I ordered a ship and stocked it with 14 of the bravest men. Together we took to the sea, the wind at our back, flying like a bird all the way to the Danish coast. And as we approached, I saw such a sight that I thought I must be dreaming. There, on a distant hill, a second sun seemed to rise, man-made, but no less radiant. It was Heorot, and her jewel-encrusted walls beckoned us to glory! We followed the paved roads all the way to the dream house, pushed open the doors, and were greeted by a nearly hollow hall, her trophies and ornaments, her benches and boards, all cracked and defaced with ragged scars. Amidst it all sat the beleaguered sentinel of these tormented nights. Old, gray Hrothgar, a shadow of his legend. Good King Hrothgar, news of your terrible plight has reached us all the way in Geatland. These men and I have sailed for days to offer you assistance. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Beowulf, son of the mighty warrior Ecgtheow, kinsman of Hugelac, king of the Geats. I stand before you on the merits of my own triumphs. Be they man or monster, all fools who have come before me seeking death have left this world fully satisfied. With the help of these brave men, I seek to offer the one you call Grendel this same satisfaction. This is my request. Do not refuse me and my thanes the privilege of purging Heorot of evil. We may not be blood, but these men so eagerly seek to restore honor to your name and clan. So dearly do I respect your exploits, Hrothgar, that I will double the glory in this quest for vengeance. I hear the reckless beast scorns all weapons in his pursuit of carnage. So shall I avenge you. I hereby renounce all sword, shield, and armor. Man and monster alone. Fate shall determine the victor. With tremendous effort, the old king stood, and the few souls still lingering in that hall watched as he lumbered toward me. Beowulf, son of Ecgtheow, I fought alongside your father. I counted him a friend. I have prayed for an end to these harrowing assaults, and now Almighty God has seen fit to send the son of my friend to turn the tide of our misfortune. Fix a bench for these heroes! Call forth my warriors and fill this place once more with story and song. Tonight, we feast in anticipation of your triumphs. I had not expected to find a friend of my father in that distant land, nor a Danish king who praises a foreign god. But fate never ceases to amaze, does it? We threw a feast, and the smell of meat and beer enticed Danes from miles around to fill that place with resounding joy. Singing, dancing, happiness in full view, men and women relishing in that long-lost sensation. As I watched them, I promised myself that tonight would not be their last night of peace. At twilight, Hrothgar stood and offered a toast to our health and luck. Beowulf, our hall is yours to keep, my friend. It was once the greatest of homes, and it shall be again once this cursed beast is no more. Beowulf, win this night alive, and you shall wish for nothing. Skål! Our host departed then, leaving us to our work. True to my word, I unburdened myself of armor and entrusted my sword and shield to the youngest among us. He was a boy named Eofor, and his hands were trembling. He was not alone. 14 of the bravest men, courageous faces all, none expecting to return home. They knew the stories. Before bedding down, I spoke to them, knowing that it may be my last words. The only one who should fear monsters tonight is Grendel. Because I am the monster in this hall! And tonight, he faces me. If he dares. My entire company, wind, sea, and life-loving rovers, rested beside me, awaiting fate. Outside, shadows rustled. A hand, or worse, pressed against the iron-braced doors, the obstruction barring him for mere moments before surrendering to his rage. My men and I, feigning sleep, watched through cracked eyes as he skulked into the hall. To this day, what I saw defies creation. It was a man-shaped abomination, enormous and twisted out of proportion. Though no natural light dare touch that thing, his eyes glowed, smoldered, lit by an inhuman hunger. He saw his prey strewn about the floor, and his glee at the bounty was demonic. quicker than thought, he grabbed Aofor from our pile and repeatedly bashed his head upon a bench. We did not move. Our plan was to take the monster by surprise. Mercifully, the boy's body was limp when the beast bit into bones, swallowing him in chunks. Still unsated, he sought another morsel, and as fate would have it, he was attracted to my bare flesh. He reached toward me close enough now that the reek of my companion's blood was thick upon his breath. Vengeance was upon me. I locked my hand around that thing's outstretched palm. He cried, as if he had never known fear, recoiling from my grasp, strength abandoning him, at once desperate to escape like a child caught. I repeated my bedtime story. I am the monster in this hall. I strengthened my grip, each of his fingers crackling beneath the pressure. He hammered walls, battered floorboards, crushed tables, but he could not loose me. I had manacled the monster. As if death awoke, each of my warriors leapt to their feet and labored with sword and axe to ensure the vile visitor would not escape alive. But each of their blades harmlessly glanced off his hideous hide. Their zeal could not have known, nor mine, when I forswore all weapons, that Grendel could not be harmed by any earthly weapon. Fortunately, his fear overwhelmed him. He wrenched in my grasp, frantically toiling towards freedom, jerking with abandon, and that's when I saw it. A gash was growing across his shoulder. I watched as sinews split and bones burst. And in a mist of blood, Grendel vanished. Hopelessly, he fled into the night. But I gave no thought to chase. No. Only one of us had survived our mortal struggle. The proof of that was left in my hands. The following morning, Hrothgar awoke and tottered into the great hall. Blood dripped from the ceiling, and there, nailed to the rafters of Heorot, was the entirety of Grendel's shoulder and arm. Hell has reclaimed him. Beowulf, only the King of Kings himself can reward you for what you have done this day. But allow a poor old man to offer an unsuitable gift to a hero who has already won eternal rewards through his actions. Beowulf, I wish to adopt you, though in my heart it feels as if you have always been my son. Please, sit by me and bask in this hard-won peace, my boy. He was wrong. Of all the gifts I would ever receive, his company and kind words were the greatest of all. Though I am curious about these eternal rewards that he spoke of, so there you have it, Spirit. What say you? I hear that Grendel was an enemy to all mankind. Surely his slayer is deserving of infinite glory. There's more to this tale. Listen, and let it speak for itself. At the feast, to celebrate the demise of Grendel, all the Danes gathered to gawk at the grisly trophy. There was a great deal of cause to drink deep that night. Though I fear their bliss invited doom. At dawn, a howl aroused us from our slumber. We rushed into the great hall, only to discover that the massive arm of Grendel was missing. Hrothgar stood, looking on, shrinking into his new-found despair. The whole guard was ambushed by a killer. Their watch disturbed by weeping in the dead of night, and there in the middle of the hall they spied a hell bride cradling Grendel's arm like a babe. It was her, Beowulf, the mother of Grendel. She slaughtered several of my men before hastening to retreat, but not before she took one last trophy. Ashera. Ashera. Ashera was Hrothgar's dearest friend and companion. His heart, his soul, his counsel. And he had been abducted by the mother of the beast I had slain. It had not even occurred to me that the creature would have family. But just as Cain was exiled for the murder of his brother, we too have ways of dealing with the murder of kin. We call it the blood feud, the right and obligation to seek vengeance. It seemed as if Grendel's mother was invoking her rights, but her son's death was my price to pay, not Ashera. If it was a resolution the witch sought, then she should have it. Grieve no more. It is better to avenge loved ones than linger in lamentations. Hunt her with me. She will have no escape. She will find no refuge. Were she to hide within this hell you speak of, I would plumb its depths to give you vengeance. This I swear to you. Amongst the wolves, where the waters boil, the mother makes her home. This was enough information for me. We set out in force, riding through increasingly foreboding scenery, the earth twisting upon itself into unfamiliar shapes. We followed her trail all the way to the place Hrothgar spoke of. A lake whose waters boiled despite the frigid winter. And there, just beneath the surface, was a pile of wriggling reptiles writhing and slinking in the dark. That was no good place. Behind us, Hrothgar found a sight worse than any infested waters. It was the head of Ashera, left to taunt us. I could bear it no more. I would trade his suffering for hers. Hrothgar, remember your words to me. If I do not return, watch after my men and be as a father to me. I shall find glory or die. I dove into those uncharted waters, only to find the queen of that strange lake waiting for me. It was a trap, and I had played right into her advantage. You see, unlike my brawl with her son, I came dressed for battle, not swimming. And so she dug her nails into my armor, dragged me into deeper waters, and with a grin, abandoned me to her court of reptiles. They came from 1,000 unseen hiding places and compounded with my armor, sinking tusks and fangs into my flesh, dragging me deeper and deeper into dark water until there was nothing left but I had been spit into some otherworldly cave at the bottom of the lake, its high vaulted ceilings protecting it from the onrush of water. And there, deeper within, I saw the flicker of firelight. I followed its heat through stony corridors all the way to her. Before a bonfire, she was kneeling in front of a corpse. I lifted my sword above my head and brought the full might of steel upon her! Nothing. I should have assumed that she too would be immune to earthly weapons. An infuriating family trait. Unaffected, she stood to meet me, her wet hair clinging to her like seaweed. I always preferred my fists anyways. I grabbed her and threw her to the ground, only for her to catch herself with wolf-like reflexes and pounce from below, toppling us both to the ground. Caught in her grim embrace, she drew a dagger and aimed it directly for my heart. And finally, my armor seemed to do some good because it turned the tip, denying her the delight of vengeance. But I was no match for her grief and fury. I needed help. And then the firelight caught the gleam of steel and black. The wolf woman had an armory, and amongst its treasures was a piece of steel unlike anything I had ever seen. I writhed from her grasp and rushed towards the blade. Whoa! It was heavy, denying to be lifted. But the feet slapping on stone told me I had but mere moments. It separated her head entirely. She fell in a wet thud to the floor, motionless. That was a good sword. Suddenly, light filled the cave as daylight with the sky. I could see now that the corpse before the bonfire was not Ashera. It was Grendel. His recently recovered arm gently placed at his side, laid to rest by a loving mother. I removed his head with ease. And that magical sword, slathered in the caustic blood of mother and son, melted down to its hilt. No matter, it had done its purpose. I took the head, and I left that cursed place. You should have seen them when I came crawling out of that water with the mystical remains of a sword in one hand and the hideous head of Grendel in the other. Beowulf! Beowulf! They told me through cheers that Hrothgar had rode home sick at heart that I had died. When I strode through the doors of Heorot, he wept. I presented the head of Grendel to a sea of astonished Danes. That is a better trophy than an arm, after all. I dropped the head at the feet of the king. Hrothgar, sleep evermore in these halls with all of your men. You have endured. Mother and son are dead. Lastly, I presented him the hilt of the sword that had won the day.
I, too, won glory with such fine tools in my youth. Now the hilt alone is too heavy in my hand. Beowulf, I have ruled this kingdom for 50 winters, and in that time I considered no man under heaven a true foe. I believed that my strength was my own, mine forever to wield. Not so, Beowulf. Strength is a gift from God. He lends it to us for a while, permits us to use it as we see fit. Youth is a luxury. It feeds our ego, clouds our judgment, and forces us to ignore the inevitable. Grendel was the axe to punish my arrogance. I built a monument to my might, and he came and pushed it down as if it were made of sand. It is a wonder that I saw the end to this, were it not for you, Beowulf. Beowulf, learn from my mistakes. Beware that trap, pride. Though we believe it is ours evermore, strength is brief. Death always arrives. Choose not pride, Beowulf.
The following morning was to be our last in the lands of the Danes. Hrothgar met us on the rocks to say farewell. I told him that he would always find friends in Geatland, and in return he told me that I would see myself king of the Geats. Fine and proper words befitting a hero and a king, but his love for me could not be contained within the fetters of good etiquette. He wrapped his arms around me as if to chain me to his side, and planted kiss after kiss on my face. He confided in me that he had 2 foreboding thoughts. The first of which is that he would never see me again. He never told me the second, though I fear I know what it was. Hrothgar died while we were venturing home. Of all the men that ever lived, there was none worthier of a soft and quiet death than he. It was a gift that I gave him, and it was one that I could not give myself.
Choose not pride, Beowulf.
Do not taunt me with his words, spirit. I am the one telling this story.
Do not choose pride.
Let your eternal place rot! Pride makes me unworthy. I have earned pride. I have sundered infernal monsters with my bare hands. Every spear that sought to snuff my life I have endured, and in return supplied death without exception. I do not know if my strength is my own, or given to me by some god in the clouds, but I do know this. This world considers me a hero. My name and deeds will outlive me tenfold. I do not need heaven or Valhalla. I have already earned eternal rewards. So tell me, spirit, what is it that you seek to offer me? This has been your game all along, hasn't it, spirit? To tease me with what I have lost, only to watch as I helplessly recount the circumstances of my own death. Well, I am no coward. I shall indulge you, Judge. A lot happened in later days. War consumed Geatland, and with it the life of my king, Uyalak. I avenged him through bloody conquests, and his crown fell to me. I became king of the Geats, just as Hrothgar foresaw. I ruled that kingdom just as Hrothgar had done for 50 years, in peace and prosperity. But there is no more time for victories, is there? You wish only to hear of my life's bane. The scaled-skinned fire-breather. The dragon. It was the darkest night that we have ever known. A vile shadow appeared to eclipse the moon and belched flames as if the entire sky rained fire. The region burned, forts, homes, families reduced to ash. And before the sun could expose his crimes, the dragon winged home, content with his destruction. I received the news elsewhere that my house, my hall, my people, I have never known the gloom that darkened my mind.
I have prayed
No!
for an end to these heralds.
I ordered a shield to protect me from the flames and gathered 14 of the bravest men once more to join me on a quest for vengeance. And as fate would have it, we were provided a path. As we disembarked, a slave with a golden goblet in hand fell at my feet. He told me that he had escaped his master, and on the run he discovered a mysterious cave. Having no safety of his own, he crept inside and found a winding road descending beneath the known earth. At its bottom, he found a hoard of treasure. Need and want urged the man to take a single piece, the gold-studded goblet. The theft was enough to awaken the guardian from his slumber. A winged serpent, he described it, flames flaring from its nostrils. He fled in terror, the blasted cup in hand, and ran all the way to me. He offered me the cup for his safekeeping. But that man was the source of all of our tragedy. We forced him to his feet and made him lead us to that place he had so desperately escaped. The smell of scorched earth greeted us. High on a rock, we felt the stony mouth exhale deadly heat. Had I the strength, I would have choked the life out of that gold-hoarding serpent!
Always arise.
But I no longer had the luxury of such youthful boasts. All I had was a sword. When I returned from my adventures at Heorot, my king, Hujalak, gave me a sword as a reward. A piece of steel of such legend that it was given a name. Nailing It was the sword wielded by the great King Hrethel, the man that fate would make my second father. The man I call my father, the mighty warrior Ecgtheow, died when I was but 7, seeking glory in some distant land. He is nothing more than a powerful name to me now. But Hrethel, he took me in after my father's untimely demise, and despite having 3 sons of his own, spread his love with ease. And his charity would only be met with misfortune. One day, while practicing archery, his youngest son loosed an arrow that would find a target in his eldest son's breast. Hrethel could not punish the boy for his murder, nor endure the death of his eldest son. And so he chose neither. Instead, he departed from this world broken-hearted. His death incited a blood feud between his remaining sons, one that his middle child would win. Huyalok, the man that would be my king. He took me in out of familial obligation, but he did not respect me. He counted me a weakling. He feared that my foreign adventures at Heorot would bring him shame. But my victory over Grendel was enough to impress him, and give him cause to reward me with the one thing I desired more than anything else. The sword of our shared father. I wielded that blade for decades, but it never felt as heavy as it did on that day. "14 of the bravest men joined me on that cliff, courageous faces all, none expecting to return home. They knew the stories. The youngest among them, a boy named Wiglaf. He was trembling. Wiglaf, when I was young, I set sail with 14 of the bravest men to defend the kindest man that I have ever met. To double his glory in a quest for vengeance, I forswore all weapons. And I would do the same for you. But I am old now, and I must rely on other arms. But I respect you so dearly that I will double the glory in this quest. Men, stay here. Your king stands for you now. I will find glory or die." I spit upon further words. I am resolved. My entire company, wind, sea, life-loving rovers, rested there on the cliff while I descended alone. I approached the cave with nothing more than my shield and the sword of my fathers at my side. Well, perhaps I was not alone.
Death has arrived.
I am Beowulf, son of the warrior Ecgtheow, and Hrethel, and Huyalok, and Hrothgar, and I am not afraid. Only fire. But through the flames, a voice appeared. Do not give up, Beowulf. I stand beside you. It was Wiglaf, a boy never tested in battle, come to risk life and limb to turn the tide of my misfortune. I could not let him die here. That sword, nailing, broke. Fangs sank into my neck, venom coursing through my veins, flames charring my body. But that boy, he did not give up. He took his sword and plunged it clean into the dragon's belly, but flames scorched forth from the wound, scarring his hand, forcing him to drop the sword at my feet. The dragon fell. And so did the man. The fire of life extinguished for both, replaced by a dark, soft, quiet death. I am glad that the last thing I ever felt was that young warrior close my eyes for good.
Beowulf.
You need not tell me! Doom approaches! But wait and listen to my last musing. Fate has swept my entire clan from this world. And though I never had a son, in my heart I believe I found one. Wiglaf, the boy I left behind to tell a story of his own. One that is inextricably woven into mine own legend. He is what remains of me now. And Echdale, Harethel, Huyalach, and Hrothgar. He is our victories and our mistakes. And I have faith that he will learn from both. This consoles me. I am prepared to depart. To where, I know not. But I must follow my fathers.
Son, warrior, king, sit by me and bask in this hard one.